Representative Connolly really called out Joe. You remember Joe Wilson? You lie, Joe Wilson. He wants to play magnanimous now about this particular issue. Well, Connolly didn't only admonish him, Connolly also schooled him and other Republicans on what really occurred. How did we get here in Afghanistan? And it's important for us to see it, acknowledge it, learn about it, and have it at the tip of our tongues. Check this out. We'll take it on the other side.
I guess I would say to my friend from South Carolina, if I were the member of Congress who committed one of the most grievous acts in a State of the Union address when the President of the United States, Mr. Obama, was our guest, to shout out, "You lie," I might take more care about enumerating other alleged lies in a hearing with the Secretary of State. Mr. Secretary, what we're listening to on the other side of the aisle, sadly, is sort of a salad mix of selective facts and a lot of amnesia in the salad dressing. The history of instability in Afghanistan didn't begin on August 14th of this year, did it?
It did not.
Am I correct in remembering that, in fact, you could trace direct routes to 1977, 1978, when there was a communist coup and the president of Afghanistan was assassinated in the presidential palace? Is that correct?
It is.
And 1 year later, the Soviet Union, because of that instability, decided to invade Afghanistan. Is that correct?
It is.
And 10 years later, the Soviets left Afghanistan because they had mounting and maybe really unsustainable military casualties and felt that they were engaged in a process that could not be won. Is that correct?
It is.
And meanwhile, because the United States decided once that happened, it would disengage primarily from Afghanistan, groups like the Taliban had 12 years in which to create political power. Is that correct?
It is.
And in 2001, we re-entered Afghanistan in response to the tragedy we just remembered, 20-year remembrance this week, and we rolled up the Taliban by making alliances with various militia groups in the north and moved south until they lost control of the country in that year in 2001. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And the purpose of our involvement was to defeat al-Qaeda because the Taliban were harboring this virulent terrorist group that had attacked America. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Would it be fair to say that we achieved that objective?
It would.
Would it be fair to say that, in fact, 10 years later, the leader of that group who masterminded the attacks of 9/11 was, in fact, killed by a United States specially trained military unit?
That's correct.
So what happened ultimately on August 14th has lots of history. I know it's convenient to pretend that didn't happen. And I know that we want to give ourselves sort of the pleasure of attacking a political leader of the other party. And so let me engage in that too. I'm going to assert that the events of August 14th had their direct antecedent with a bad decision by President Trump and Secretary Pompeo in 2018 to elevate and legitimize the Taliban in Doha, Qatar, by agreeing to have face-to-face negotiations. That tragedy was compounded exponentially by an unbelievable decision to exclude the government of Afghanistan, ostensibly we were defending, from those very negotiations. Is that an accurate statement, Mr. Secretary?
Certainly that's what we inherited.
But Afghan was in fact excluded from the negotiating table in Doha by the Trump administration. Is that not correct?
That's essentially correct, yes.
And when those 5,000 people were released from prison, since the ranking member is so concerned, and correctly so, about 2 Haqqani members in the current cabinet of the Taliban, were there any known terrorists or declared terrorists by the United States among those 5,000 people released with the consent and negotiated agreement of the Trump administration?
Almost certainly, yes.
I guess our concern about terrorists is pretty select and limited to partisanship.
Is that a takedown or what? Is that the perfect takedown or what? I think I wanted to bring that because I thought that many of us know the truth. We don't quite know it as orderly as he just presented it, bullet point by bullet point. So I decided, let's go ahead and put this together because that is exactly what a lot of people, including some of the folks who believe they know what happened, need to see. Great job, Connolly. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.